Let's see, right? Oh, I'm on. Okay, great. Thank you. Is there an echo? Is this, again, I'm worried that this is too loud. Is this, okay. Michael said something about being in sync. I don't know if we're going to sync or not, but we'll see how this works anyways. I think we'll do all right. So my name is Dexter Fletcher. I work for something called the Institute for Defense Analyses. What we do are studies and analyses for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Those of you who are familiar with Superintendent's Office will understand me when I say that the Office of the Secretary of Defense is somewhat equivalent in that it is the common enemy of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. We produce reports from time to time, and they're read by tens of people on a good day. But that's our business. Let's see. Now, the old saw is that you should say what you want to say it, and then say that you said it. So, in conclusion, what I want to say, the rest of this is, the rest of the talk has to do with some support for these assertions here, that there is an individualization imperative in all education. And computer-assisted instruction can make it affordable. It's not so much that we're enamored by bits, bytes, and lights, as it is that we can make individualization, and I'll explain why that's important, we can make that affordable. This is the rule of threes. Reduce the cost of delivering instruction by about a third, and either increase learning by about a third, or reduce time to learn by about a third. You get your choice. Now, Dick Clark always leaps on me and gives me the old business about, what does technology have to do with education? It has no more to do with education than the trucks that drive the groceries to the store help American nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. And it's true. What matters is what you do with what you got, of course. So I'm not talking about cause and effect. This thing is simply a statistical statement based on a whole bunch of studies. And at present, computer-based instruction is probably the only affordable. I've said that, and we should take advantage of this opportunity. I figure there are folks in this room, probably nearly all of you, who have spent a lifetime trying to convince people to take advantage of this opportunity. We're probably all in the same boat. I would like to say that the Department of Defense, being the Department of Defense, when you say you're going to do something, everybody stands up, salutes smartly, and goes and does it. I'd really like to say that. So much for that. Here we are in an office, or I'm in an office, about 15 minutes from a funny 5-sided building. The shuttles running every 15 minutes back and forth between them. And you may be wondering what all that has to do with educational technology. So here's a couple of statements about that, just in defense, apology for our lives. We do spend a lot of money on residential instruction. Residential instruction, I mean formal courses taught in a place, scheduled specifically for somebody to go, take. And they get certificates of one sort or another from that. Lord only knows how much we spend flying ships around, flying ships. Very, very bad. How much time we spend, how much money we spend driving airplanes around in the sky and driving ships around in the ocean and tanks. But nobody knows. Nobody knows. But it's likely to be somewhere a lot. You can see the rest of it. Oops, sorry. Right, I'll figure this out. It's technology. We got about 1.3 million uniform service members, blah, blah, blah. I guess the thing that I would point out to you is that we also have we give schooling to about 110,000 dependents. About 80,000 of those are in K-12 education, and we have about 94 schools of that sort. So we have a vested interest in good education. If your kids are getting good education, then you're more likely to stay in the services and put up with all the nonsense that brings. So it's important to us. And we spend quite a lot on research and development in education and training. Now, a lot of that goes into building very expensive simulators and things of that sort. But there's still enough floor sweepings around left to pay for some interesting education research. And I should add that about 86% of the stuff that we train And there is a real data, we can look to see, have direct civilian counterparts. So it's not all, loading bombs and things like that. And it's brought us a few things. Does anybody remember the semi-automated ground environment and the systems training program? Probably not. This is a while ago. Remember all the things that we had, the radar we had around the duty system, and they're supposed to tell us when the bad guys are flying over the poles and going to drop nasty things on us. That was the SAGE system, and you had to train people to use radars, big radar network. And so there's something called the system training program, cleverly, it was probably the first instance I know of computer-based instruction. It was clumsy, but it had a little authoring system that went with it. It's interesting history anyways. And then about the same time, the engineering CSL coordinated science laboratory at the University of Illinois came along developed a plasma panel. And they're trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this? And a fellow named Chalmers Sherwin came and decided that, well, we can use it as an electronic workbook. How about that? We're talking 1950s here, remember. This has been a little while ago. And that gave birth to programmed logic for automated teaching operations. And that was probably, the University of Illinois was probably the first big entry into that, although Stanford and Texas very soon thereafter. And so in the 60s, you had time-shared interactive computer-controlled television, IBM 1500 evaluations in instructional systems design. These things were all pretty much, all the stuff here was pretty much started up by defense research and development. As it proved itself, it would be adapted by other folks like the National Science Foundation and the something program for post-secondary studies in education. I can't remember what that is. But anyways, it's been a long time. Recently, there's been some interest in virtual classrooms, which I kind of not happy with because I think we're getting beyond classroom instruction. But we'll get around to that. And something called advanced distributed learning, which, so they're the wonderful folks who brought you things like the shared content object reference model, SCORE, and all of that stuff. So there's been a lot of things that have made their way out of research and development in the Department of Defense into public schools and elsewhere in the industry as well. The focus of our work is on training, of course, but I would say that there are differences in emphases. Training is basically a means to an end. You want people to do something when you finish training. And so that means that the goals there are non-negotiable. In education, it's more a matter of figuring out what this package is that you're born with and how to use it in a useful way. And for that reason, education tends to be an end in itself, and the goals are negotiable. Because after all, you're trying to figure out what you're good for. But again, the techniques, tactics, procedures are pretty much the same. There is an apocryphal grand challenge for educational technology that was laid down. And of course, what you have in something like this is somebody immediately says, I know how we're going to solve this problem, we'll form a committee. Okay. So they did. So they bring in a blue ribbon committee. And they get a bunch of experts or people who want to say they're experts. And and the story, as the story goes, they gathered together and tried to build the specifications for the ideal individualized educational technology. So what are the specifications? Well, okay, so it's worth considering now. First, it's got to be rugged, lightweight, easily portable, minimal external power requirements. You don't have batteries carried around with it. Easy, random access to high-quality text, black or white, full-color graphics, high-resolution photographs, easily understood interface. You should be able to use it really easily. Learner control of content, so you can dive into it where you want to, you can control your own sequence. And useful anywhere, anytime, old school workplace. And oh yeah, it's got to be inexpensive. Some of you may have guessed about this, but I have an example of this technology here with me, which I'll show you. So find, oh yeah, here it is. Here's an example. And this is a little, I'm a historian, so it's not much by the way the pictures of it, but you can see what we have to do in this business of using computers in in place of what we have already is it's got to at least be better than a book. And that's really the message there. About tutorial instruction. I haven't quite got to technology yet, but this is strictly about tutorial. So, and these guys, you don't see any computers that you're doing. I haven't seen any. You know, it's kind of elaborate because it's a graphic and all. But this is Plato's Academy, drawing of that. And actually, this is way, way after the fact. At this point, we had something like 100,000 years of Homo sapiens wandering around the earth, learning things. And they learned it by tutorial instruction, one-on-one. You go find somebody who knows how to do something, then they come back and you talk to them and get tutored by them and so forth, and you learn. So that's where we're coming from. And I thought, with all my left brain stuff here, we ought to have at least a picture or two.